Good morning and welcome to this wonderful sunny morning here live from Greater Manchester. My name is Seamus Corry. I am a wellbeing consultant, mental health training practitioner. Welcome to this series in the spotlight with me, your host. Thank you to all those who have subscribed to my channel, and I really am humbled by the amount of followers that I'm getting. It's obviously these conversations are having an impact, and I connect with people and I have conversations with people that are doing great work in the world. And so thank you for your following and for your subscription. Thank you also for your comments. It's also great to get your comments, that you share with me after listening to the episode, and that really helps me to ensure that the content I'm delivering for you is right and it's on message and it's on target for you. So you won't want to miss today's episode. I say that every episode because all my episodes and all my guests are absolutely amazing. But the person I have with me today as my guest is absolutely amazing. What a really interesting career this guy's had. He's a founder. He has a background in BBC. He has a background in motivation and confidence building, but also supports positive masculinity. And we will look at that in a little bit of detail today and see how that works in practice. It's my joy, honor, privilege, and humility to welcome to In the Spotlight this morning, Daniel Glyde. Good morning, Daniel, and how are you this morning?
Hello, Seamus. Yeah, really well, thank you. The sunshine helps, doesn't it? To look
It
out,
really
I'm
does,
sat
man.
next to a big window here. I live in a beautiful place up in the Scottish borders, green rolling hills, lots of sheep as far as the eye can see. But I look out today, just a pure blue sky. The hills are green and alive, and yeah, it's just wonderful. You can't fail to be in a good mood when the sun is shining. So yeah, I'm doing great, and thank you for that introduction. That's really kind.
You're welcome, my friend. For those of you who don't know you, Daniel, and for those of you who would like to find out a little bit more, would you like to spend a couple of minutes just telling the listenership this morning who Daniel Glyde is?
Sure. Yeah. So, right here, right now, I am a peak performance and rapid results coach, Seamus. So I work with men, busy business owners, leaders, professionals, men who have got a bit stuck, who are a bit stressed and frustrated. On the outside, their life looks great.
Hmm.
They're very successful. They've got all the things society told them would make them happy. It's not made them happy.
Hmm.
And their success has often come at a cost. Generally, their well-being and their relationships has dropped down their list of priorities in order to make things happen in their career or their business. So they come to me because they're ready to change. They're ready to live differently. They're ready. They're often stuck in the what I call the three P's, Seamus: perfectionism, procrastination, and people pleasing.
Oof.
What they would rather have is the three C's: calm confidence, clarity, and control.
Yeah.
And control is an important word, Seamus, because we're all busy, or so far too many of us are busy trying to control our outside circumstances and other people and events. We have no control over those things.
Hmm.
That's where stress and frustration lies.
Hmm.
Actually, what we can control is ourselves. We have a responsibility, and that is an ability to respond. So we get to choose our perspective. We get how to choose how we respond to events and circumstances and other people and the things that happen in our lives. So I help men live deliberately, make deliberate choices aligned to what they really care about, their values.
Hmm.
And I also help them understand how their views, opinions, and beliefs shape the way they see the world, and that all those things are up for grabs. And every single one of us, Seamus, carries around a few core beliefs about ourselves and about the world that disempower us, that limit us, that hold us back, that keep us playing small, that make us doubt ourselves, that make us overthink and second guess and all get stuck up in our heads. So I help men peel all those layers back and understand what's really going on, what they really want from their life, a compelling, exciting vision, and I help them make that happen. And I came into this world, Seamus, because I burnt myself out in my previous career. So I used to work for the BBC. I worked in sports broadcasting, which was absolutely amazing. I loved every minute of it. I got paid for watching sport, basically. Uh,
Ooh.
yeah, and it was fantastic because I love sport and I'm very passionate about sport. And I got to work on Olympics and World Cups and all the great events that the BBC covers, Wimbledon, Six Nations, all that stuff. Amazing. But my mindset was awry, like many blokes, like many people in general. It's not just men who live like this, but I I prioritize my career above everything, including my well-being.
Mm.
Now, I've always looked after myself pretty well physically because I'm active. I love sport. So I've always been quite fit and well. But even my physical health started to take a dive because of the way I was living my life. So a lot of that was to do with how I'd been shown and how I was taught and what society taught me being a man was about. So this thing of showing no weakness, pushing on through, trying to solve all my problems myself, never asking for help, never stopping to find out how I felt, never acknowledging or understanding my emotions, burying them, repressing them. So I spent a long time escaping and avoiding and indulging in short-term pleasure and gratification because I stopped feeling joy, Seamus, because I'd built up walls around me in order to protect myself so I could exist in a competitive environment and be driven and ambitious. And I ran myself into the floor. I ended up burnt out. It was a big panic attack I had one day sat on my doorstep that pulled me up a bit lively. That was life. I mean, I'd had many subtle messages along the way
Yeah.
from my own body and, saying, mate, come on, don't think we can carry on like this. I was like, I must. I've built this career. I have to keep going.
Yeah.
And eventually life hits you in the face with a brick and says, mate, come on. So from then on, Seamus, I've kind of been rebuilding myself and my life, and so I've worked out. I've come up with a philosophy which you mentioned at the top there, positive masculinity, which is a new way for men to thrive,
Mm.
and I've created a simple 3-step coaching process, the power shift, which is about shifting your attention and your intention from the outside world to your inner world, because that's where your power lies to make change.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. The shift from the three P's to the three C's, Daniel. That's a shift, and for guys like us, that's a powerful shift, right?
It really is, Seamus. Yeah. And I think a lot of that stuff, and I know this happened to me and it's happened to the guys I work with, you
Yeah,
think it's normal. You think it's normal to be constantly doubting yourself, to be overthinking, to be
yeah,
saying yes when you mean no, to be overstretching yourself, constantly telling yourself this story of, I'll be all right when the kids leave home, I retire, the next holiday, I go to buy the next car when I have a pint at the weekend. You're not. You won't be all right when. And it, you know, being in that people pleasing, perfectionism, procrastination mode is common. We all do it, right? And if you're there, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken and you don't need fixing. We've all ended up in those three things in some way, shape, or form. But it's when you get stuck in it, when it becomes a drain on your energy,
yeah,
when you're saying yes when you mean no, and you start building resentment, and it chips away at your self-worth and your self-esteem. And that perfectionism and procrastination means that things you really want to get done, you're not getting done
yeah,
because you're second guessing and you're worried about what other people are going to think about you, and you get all stuck up in your head,
yeah.
and so you're not really experiencing life. You're not present in the moment.
There's no joy.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the big thing for me, Shay.
Yeah.
It was probably a decade where I felt no joy because I was
Wow.
so stuck up in my head, and then I became so enamored with short-term pleasure and gratification because that's the only way I felt good.
Can
Uh,
I throw another P in there, Daniel?
please.
Would punishment be part of that?
Yes, shame and guilt is a big part of it. And,
Yeah.
and that's what happens, you see. We get stuck in procrastination. We're not doing the things we want to do. We're pleasing people. instead of doing things from a place of service or because we want to, we're doing things because we ought to, must, should, all those things that we believe.
Yeah.
And then, particularly with people pleasing, we then feel resentment, and we feel guilt, and we feel shame. And this is a particular problem for men because we don't really know what to do with those emotions. So what we do is we beat ourselves up. I talk to lots of men. I say, how do you manage stress? I say, I go for a run. I go to the gym. Okay, so you're full of stress and you put yourself under more stress. That's how you manage stress, is it? Oh, well, I feel better. Yeah, of course you do feel better. It releases endorphins. It's good things. But that's not how you manage stress. You manage stress by saying, what's the root cause of my stress?
Yeah.
Stress is normal.
Yeah.
Anxiety is normal. But chronic stress and anxiety, that's not normal. But that being your default mode, that's not normal because you are frying your nervous system. And then the more you punish yourself for being stuck in perfectionism and procrastination and not getting things done, and for overcommitting and doing things because you think you should, you ought to, and you must, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
The more you hammer away at your self-esteem and your self-worth, and then the more stuck you become, and the more you try and please people, and the more you seek perfection because you don't believe in yourself anymore. Your confidence takes a hit. And I speak to lots of blokes, Seamus, and they say, oh, nothing wrong with my confidence, Dan. My confidence fine. That's bravado. And
Yeah.
I created that, Seamus. I created this false bravado. From the outside, you would never have known there was anything going on for me. You would never have known. Yeah, I looked successful. I drove around in a brand new motor. I had a wonderful job that impressed other blokes whenever I told them what I did. I got to watch sport and get paid, Seamus. But underneath, I was crumbling, mate.
Yeah.
I was in pieces. I couldn't sleep. I had chronic anxiety. I had that constant feeling of dread in here. And I was stuck in those 3 Ps, mate. And that 4th P is exactly right. I was punishing myself too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And sadly, you know, I say sadly, but your final break with your final stick in the spoke in the wheel of the tire of that cycle that you were in, obviously, as you sat on that doorstep and had a really, really bad panic attack.
Yeah, I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, yeah. What happened after that, Daniel? Did you just try to work through, or did you say enough's enough, man?
So I stopped, Seamus, right? So
Yeah,
so so all that stuff in my head, all that gotta do this, must do that, striving, pushing, the next thing, more. What's the next opportunity? How can I maneuver myself? What relationships do I need to make? All that stuff. I just went, stop. What are we doing this for?
yeah.
What's it all about? What are we trying to achieve here?
Wow, big
Where's the
question.
purpose and the meaning and the fulfillment coming here? And I think a lot of guys in midlife ask themselves these questions, Seamus. And
Absolutely, every day.
yeah, and so when I slowed it all down, I started to peel back the layers, and I started to read lots of self-help books and
Mm,
consume lots of podcasts and YouTube videos. And I realized I'd completely lost sight of myself, of who I was, of what I was really all about, of what I really wanted to achieve in life.
mm.
That career that I'd gone into 20 years previously, I just kept plowing on, do more, be more, get more, climb the ladder. I never stopped to ask myself why. I never stopped to ask myself, what was the end goal? What do I really want from my life? And as I started to, I guess, reconnect with my spiritual self, Seamus, and my presence and my awareness, I realized there was so much more to life than what I was doing, living all up in my head. I started to realize how intelligent my body was, and that if I listened to it, it spoke to me. I started to realize that there was a different way to live. And, I'm driven and ambitious, Seamus, and I want to always perform at my peak. And I realized that the way I was living meant I was way off performing at my
Yeah,
peak.
yeah.
In fact, I was
But
showing up.
but your head thought, yeah, I need to do more. I need to be more. I need to, work harder,
Yeah,
work
grind,
longer,
hustle, push,
grind,
push,
hustle,
push.
7 days,
Yeah, say
24/7,
yes to
20.
everything. Say yes to
Yeah,
all the overtime, yes to all the opportunities,
yeah,
overcommit myself, overstretch myself,
yeah.
always be on. I never could switch off, Seamus. Even on holiday, my mind would be whirring. I'd be answering work emails, taking work calls because I thought that's what I had to do to get ahead. What I
Mm,
didn't realize is, and what happened to me after the panic attack and after I stripped it all back and stopped and changed my mindset, I realized, right, this career isn't for me anymore. So I'm going to leave. And the minute I
wow.
did that, I stepped into my power, Seamus, right? So I started to develop habits in order to cultivate presence. I
Mm,
started to prioritize myself, my well-being, my relationships, my life over that career because, it wasn't going to be my future anymore. And do you know what happened? My career took off like it never had in the previous 20 years. I got promoted twice. Opportunities that I'd been chasing and striving for years just landed in my lap
mm,
because I started saying no. I started prioritizing me. I started valuing myself. And when I started valuing myself, other people started to value me. My stock in the department went up. People who never previously knew who I was suddenly started to take notice of me.
mm,
And because now I was building my worth, that brought with it unshakable self-belief. I knew who I was. I knew what I was about. I had practices to keep me as well as I could be. And that meant that I could perform at my best. So when those opportunities came, I didn't get stuck up in my head. I wasn't second guessing myself. I didn't have sleepless nights leading up to them. I backed myself. I understood I could do it. I understood there was a reason I got that opportunity. So
mm.
inevitably, I nailed them, Seamus. I went into them relaxed. I treated them as fun. And these were big things, television programs with millions of people watching. I got to direct live FA Cup matches and rugby league matches, and you know, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. But because of my mindset, because I knew it wasn't important, I smashed it. So I kept getting more. So I stayed in that job another 3 years because I earned more money than
Wow.
I've ever earned before. I got just amazing opportunities. And the other thing that I started to do towards the end of my career was bring the next generation through. I started to nurture other people. And this is where I started to realize the power of coaching and how I could help others see their own greatness, get out of their own way, stop second guessing, overthinking, and to prioritize themselves, to bring these young people through and say, don't make the mistakes I did. Don't think that you have to overstretch yourself and say yes to everything in order to get on. In fact, look at me now. Look how I work now. This is the most successful I've been in my career. So I'm hoping I've helped bring a generation of people through who aren't going to burn themselves out. Although the last time I went back to the BBC to work in the Olympics, I couldn't believe the state of the staff, the health, that they're all pale, overweight. They, they, I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I'm looking around me going, "Oh my God, I'm so glad I got out of this place," because they've made cuts after cuts after cuts. They're all expected to do more for less, and none of them are looking after themselves properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think, as you know, I work in the well-being space and the mental
Mm.
health space, and one of the big priorities both you and I feel should be made in every organization, and one of the big investments that should be made should always be on staff, because if you've got a healthy staff, a staff that are mentally balanced and resilient and well and strong and healthy and in their zone really, you will get a return in terms of staff who perform well and produce well and
Yeah.
produce
And commitment, Seamus, you'll get
a,
genuine
a
commitment from
commitment.
people.
Yeah,
And when the time comes where you do need people to go the extra mile, because let's face it, you do sometimes,
yeah,
be able to and be able to at 100% because you'll have rest and recuperation and recovery built into the way you do things. So people can perform at their peak. If
yeah.
you're hammering your people, they're only ever going to give you 55, 60%. And
Cost.
they're going to
Yeah,
go off sick because they're
yeah,
going to make themselves unwell. And that's going to cost you money, or they're going to leave and it's going to cost you money to go and find new people and train them up. And we know how expensive that is. It's the best return, best investment you can make in a business. It's the best return you're going to get is investing in the well-being of your people, and genuinely, not on 1 week a year, like this week's mental health awareness week, not platitudes on a week like this, not one well-being day a month, every single day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, and I read somewhere only yesterday, Daniel, and I'd like to shout out Eliza Krigman on this. And I don't know if you follow Eliza, but she works in the digital well-being space.
Right.
You know, where we are so consumed in the digital world now that she works closely with clients, individuals, and organizations to embed new practices around separating ourselves from the realm of digital technology.
Lovely, because you know, as I was saying to you, Seamus, I was always switched on. I couldn't switch off.
Yeah,
That I was connected to the world 24/7 made that even harder to do
yeah.
because I could there was always an email to answer.
Yeah, you were in the new space. You worked for the BBC. BBC's 24 hours a day. I remember when
Exactly.
I remember when I grew up, Daniel, and I hope I'm not showing my age here, but when I lived in the Republic of Ireland, we only had two TV channels,
Yeah, do you remember that those days?
they went off at 11 o'clock at night. That was it.
Yeah.
That was your news day
And
finish.
yeah, we're just so bombarded now, aren't we? I think it's great that the woman you mentioned is doing that work.
Eliza, yeah,
Eliza, it's so needed, isn't it? Because we're not wired to deal with this, are we? We have
well,
Paleolithic emotions and nervous system. We are not wired to deal with all this. It's wonderful, isn't it, that we can access all the information there is in the world at the touch of a button,
yeah.
but we've got to manage it and we've got to do it appropriately and deliberately,
Uh,
which so many of us really struggle to do.
Absolutely. And for our kids, I was reading something the other day that our kids, maybe 10, 15 years from now, will have skeletal problems in their hands because they'll spend so many time, so much longer swiping
Yeah, and you see it everywhere you
you know,
go.
so they'll have elongated thumbs.
Yeah, we may even evolve, might we, with slightly different.
Yeah, yeah, with big hubbles on here, so there'll be, you know, it's crazy. It's crazy. You know, like, and there is that, and then, you know, you're right, and you know, Daniel, and I appreciate you sharing your honesty and transparency in terms of your own story, because I think it's that which helps us guys, you know, break the barrier, right, and
Yeah.
start to talk about what's really happening, because we are hardwired not to really talk about how we feel, right?
Yeah, and so well, there's a lot of differences between men and women.
Yeah,
There's actually more that unites us and more that makes us the same. But one of the big differences, right, is about how we process stuff.
yeah,
Men, and this is incredibly generalized, right? This is a big general statement. There will be nuances and differences. I know life isn't black and white, but in general, men internalize. That's how we process.
hmm,
Women like to vent. So I've had to learn this from my wife. Sometimes she's venting. She doesn't want me to offer a solution. She doesn't want me to fix anything. She just wants me to hear her out. Men don't do that. We internalize,
yeah,
we analyze and process, then it comes out. But the bit we forget as men is the come out bit. So we internalize to analyze and process, then we bury, repress, and we crack on.
yeah,
And that's the problem because it has to come out. Emotions, emotion, energy, emotion, they need to flow. They need to come through us, they come to us and go. They bring a message and they're all okay. We tend to, our mind tends to discern between what we like and what we don't like, or we like this feeling, we don't like that feeling. But actually, it all has something to tell us, it all has something to teach us, and it needs to flow through us. So the bit we need to remember as men, the internalization, that's how men work. That's how we're wired. That's how we do things. We also compartmentalize, and we have to, and we've had to throughout our evolution and our history. You know, we used to live in very violent times. So men had to fight to defend and save their tribes. So they had to compartmentalize and put their emotions aside in order to do that. We
hmm,
don't live in those times anymore, but we still have that wiring. We still have the wiring we did when we were cavemen. That's still how our nervous systems and our emotions and all that stuff work, the same as they did millennia ago. So we have to understand that, right? We have to, and we can't just tell men to open up and talk because that doesn't help and it doesn't work and it switches them off. What men like to do is take action. And one of the actions you need to take in order to process that stuff is for it to come out in some way, shape, or form. Now, that can be a conversation with your nearest and dearest. It can be a conversation with a friend or a mate, or it can be writing it down. I find my clients love journaling. Lots of my clients, I journal. I don't have a regular practice, but if my head gets very full up, I like bandwidth for inspiration and creativity. So if I feel my head getting full up, I'll write stuff down, and that's a great way of processing. Whatever way works for you, but it's got to come out, because if you leave it in there, it festers. What you resist persists, and it gets worse, and that's when we get anxious. That's what anxiety generally is. And again, I'm not a therapist or a psychotherapist. I'm not qualified in this. I'm talking from my own personal experience. But for me, anxiety tends to be when I've got something I haven't processed, when there's something I'm buried or repressed or I'm avoiding, because what we resist persists, and it will keep knocking on the door. And that's why you get that sense of dread, because there's something you haven't looked at, and it can be that some of the most tiny little things. Someone upset you a little bit somewhere, or you didn't quite get the opportunity you were hoping for, or something didn't turn out as you thought it would, and you're thinking this shouldn't be happening to me. All these things, and as men, we internalize it, and then we push through and we crack on, and we don't do that bit of processing. And that's the important bit. As men, we have to remember about how we work, because otherwise you're going to put yourself in constant stress mode, which is fight and flight, which means your body gets flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, which means your digestive system stops working properly, which means you literally can't think straight, because the blood goes to your sight and to your muscles and tendons, and because you're ready to fight or flight. Again, it's back to caveman times. We used to get eaten by cats and bears, and that's how our nervous system is wired to deal with imminent danger. We're very rarely in imminent danger these days, but if we don't process that stuff, those things that have upset us or knocked us off course, our bodies think we're in imminent danger. So it puts us in fight or flight, and we literally can't perform. We literally can't do the things we need to do when we're in that mode. And it's so bad for your health. This is why we have rife cardiovascular disease, because we're not supposed to be pumped full of adrenaline and cortisol 24/7. It's just on the odd occasion when we need that hyper focus and that fight or flight to deal with imminent danger.
Yeah, yeah. It 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 it's it sounds incredibly complex, but it's really incredibly simple. And you mentioned, in your share, Daniel, that you have some practices that you use yourself to stay in the present and stay in the moment
Mm.
and be present and aware to yourself. What kind of practices do you use, and what kind of practices would be helpful for, for somebody listening to do who finds themselves in that flight or
Yeah.
freeze mode?
So the key thing for me, Seamus, is mindfulness, right? And you can practice that in lots of different ways.
Yeah,
Now, one of the ways I practice mindfulness is I meditate twice a day. So I have a lovely morning routine where, first of all, I'll just sit. I put what's called binaural beats in my ear, which they generate a brainwave state. So I sit, put binaural beats in, generate a theta brainwave state, which is that kind of dreamlike state. Then I get very centered with myself. Then in the morning, I then do some creative visualization and some kind of gratitude and forgiveness practices. That helps me process stuff, right? And then when I finish work, I go and sit quietly for 20 minutes. And it depends what's been happening in the day. Sometimes I'll just do breathing. Sometimes I'll chant some affirmations. Sometimes I'll just talk about the things I need to let go in my head with myself, spending time with myself. That helps, right? That helps me create space around my thoughts and feelings. Now, something else that I do regularly is I ask myself how I feel. How
yeah,
do I feel right now? And I sit there and I put my attention in my body. How do I feel? Is there any tension? I can tell if I'm stressed, I get a tense jaw and I get tense shoulders. And this happened to me yesterday, Seamus. I got a bit of overwhelmed. So I'd forgotten to do my check-ins during the day. It was a busy day, and I had a lot on. And it wasn't till later in the day where I realized I was all up like this. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute. I've got some tension here. How do I feel? Where's the tension? Where's this come from? Why am I overwhelmed? What steps can I take in order to make myself feel like I'm moving, but without feeling really overwhelmed. And so asking myself how I feel several times a day, I find really helpful. The other thing I like to do, I take regular breaks, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes between calls or whatever I'm doing during the day. And when I take those breaks, I walk outside. I'm fortunate I live in a beautiful part of the world, but you can do this anywhere. And I get into sensing and feeling mode. So mindfulness, the Buddhist practice, is noticing what you notice, right? So instead of being all stuck up in my head, thinking about the next call that's coming, thinking about all the things I've got to done, thinking about what I'm having for dinner, second guessing, having imaginary conversations with myself, running scenarios through my head, I just get in sensing and feeling mode. What can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? What can I taste? Because actually, you can taste when you're not eating.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just notice what I notice. Oh, look, there's a beautiful buzzard flying up in the valley. Oh, look, there's a group of lambs over there jumping in and out of a hole. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, I can smell the honeysuckle. Oh, I can smell the warm air, or even the cold air, which is often the way here. Oh, look, it's raining. Feel the water landing on me, and that just it gets me into the present moment, Seamus. Journaling is another great way to do that. Just get everything out of your head and onto paper. Give yourself some time and some space. You know, some of my clients, they don't do meditation and things like that, but they just have a bit of reflection time. So one of my clients I'm working with at the moment, he's built in two 15-minute periods a day, one at lunchtime and one at the end of his working day. So he runs his own business that he created, an IT business, a very, very busy, very productive man, very successful, but he wasn't spending any time with himself. So he just has this 15-minute reflection time where he gets into that mindful state. He asks himself how he feels and just brings himself into the present moment, remembering that the past has gone, the future doesn't exist. All there is right here, right now.
Wow. Wow. It's quite powerful, isn't it, then?
It's really powerful. It really is, because the more you practice that, the slower your thinking gets. Because thinking is overrated, Seamus. It's a trap. Now, don't get me wrong. We need to think to solve problems, to create, but that's it.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, we don't need to be in thinking mode. We can be in feeling mode. You know, and the more we're in feeling mode, the more we hear the intelligence from our bodies. Our bodies have developed over millennia. Our minds are only decades old. So our bodies are far more intelligent. So if we create that bit of space, if we are mindful, if we put our attention on our bodies, it will give us messages. It will let us know. Like yesterday, when as soon as I put my attention on my body, I realized my shoulders were up here and they were like lead. And I was like, oh, hang on. And the minute I just let that go, I felt better. And the mind stopped worrying. And the more you practice it, the more that slows down, the more you can then be really deliberate about your thinking. There's a reason why it's called a train of thought, Seamus, right? Because like any train, we can decide whether we want to get on or not.
Yeah.
So we can just let thoughts come and go.
Yeah.
Ah, there's a thought about what I'm having for dinner. Ah, there's a thought about how I didn't say all the things I wanted to say when I had that interview with Seamus today.
Yeah.
Ah, and do you know what I mean? And you can just let them come and let them go. You don't have to get on and get, because our mind loves to get hold of these things and then jump to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Oh, that's right. I was going to have that for dinner today and I haven't bought it. Oh no, what am I going to do? That's ruined my plans. So now I'm going to have to do this. Oh no, that's really going to upset the wife. You know, when she finds out, she's going to say this and do that and think that. And of course, we're just stressing ourselves out. And it's all made up, Seamus. None of that stuff I just said there was real. That's just where my mind would go in that situation if I jump on that train of thought. We start making all this stuff up, second guessing, creating all these processes. They're all there to try and keep us safe, but actually there's far better ways to keep ourselves safe and to make things happen.
Absolutely. And you know, those in the know say we have about 60,000 thoughts every day. I don't know how they counted that, and I don't know how they came to that number. About 60,000 seems to be the average number of thoughts that a young human being would have.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they measure that in terms of synapses firing off in the brain or neurons firing off in the brain. I have no idea, Daniel. But you're right. Does it then, right? And I'm fascinated. Does it then come down to choice?
Yeah, it is. And this is what my philosophy, positive masculinity, is all about, Seamus,
Yeah,
right? Fundamentally, it is know yourself, be yourself, love yourself.
yeah,
If you do those three things, you can be really deliberate about your life. So for me, positive masculinity is about celebrating what's great about you,
yeah,
what's great about what makes you a man. There's nothing there to denigrate in your wiring and who you are as a man. But what you can do is you can make deliberate choices about how you use that wiring and you use those innate drives that we all have as men, the protect and provide and all those things that they're wired into us. They are part of our evolution. We
yeah.
can't ignore them. We can't just label them as this, that, or the other. We can't talk our way out of them. We can't pretend they're not there, but we get to choose how we use them. Now, you've in order to do that, you need to know who you are. You need to know what you're all about. You need to know what you really care about and why. You need to know how you want to make your mark on the world. You need to know how you want to protect and provide and create and be bold and take risks and all those things that are wired into men. You need to know how to do that appropriately in a way that's going to make not only your life better, but everybody's lives better. And it's the same with thoughts. We get to choose which ones we entertain and which ones we don't. And the way to give yourself that bit of space around them is by practicing mindfulness. And the more I work with men who do that, the more I see the ripple effects, the more I see they become better bosses and leaders, better dads, better husbands, better sons and partners and all those other things, because they're more aware of themselves.
Mm.
And the more aware we are of ourselves and the more present we are in the moment, the more deliberate we can be about what we choose to do. And in order to have those practices, Seamus, that help you do that, you've got to do a bit of work ahead of time. This isn't just going to happen. No one's going to come and save you. No one's going to come and do this for you. We all live very busy lives. We all have a lot of demands on our time. The guys I work with are very successful and they've built their success based on working 50, 60-hour weeks and never switching off. And I promise them that they can switch off and be even more successful. They rarely believe me at the start, but we have to do that bit of work up front, and that's what my 3-step process is about. It's prioritize, optimize, execute. So it's design that compelling vision for your life, that's going to pull you forward, that it excites you, that feels ever so slightly scary and out of reach. Understand what you value. What are your core values? What is really important to you? And most importantly, why is it really important to you? That's the thing we never ask ourselves. We all know, I think, intuitively what we care about, but why? Why
Mm.
do we care about that?
Mm.
Generally, it's because it's going to make the world a better place somehow. It's going to improve our environment. It's going to improve our relationship. It's about a way of feeling. So get really clear on that. Prioritize your values and your vision. Optimize. That's the views, opinions, and beliefs. Right? We talked about this a bit earlier. That's the lens through which you see the world. And again, this is about choice. Beliefs are just thoughts we've never questioned, Seamus. We can choose what we believe. If a
Mm.
belief we hold doesn't serve us and the people around us, change it.
Yeah, get rid.
If we don't like the world, change the lens through which you see it.
Yeah,
And that's optimize. And then execute is action, is doing, but aligned action, values aligned action, not shoulds, have tos, musts, not doing things because we think people expect it of us. It's having a set of habits and routines that mean we can perform at our peak, that wire in the new belief that we want to create. We have a reticular activating system that will look for evidence for what we believe. So we change the belief, we get a set of habits and routines that wire that in, that are aligned with our values. And when we have that, Seamus, we have meaning and purpose and fulfillment. We get to have joy from the most mundane things we do because we know why we're doing them, because they're aligned with who we are. And it's transformative, that process. And it means that gives you that time and that space to live deliberately, to choose. Because even when we don't think we are choosing in every moment. Everything we say yes to, we're saying no to something else. It's
yeah,
a choice.
yeah,
Our perspective is a choice. Getting upset, offended is a choice. We need to take that responsibility, all of us, our ability to respond. We need to accept that. We need to realize life is not fair. And we need to understand who we are and cultivate that presence and work on our self-awareness so we can choose deliberately what we really want, not what we think we should and ought to and have to, not what we think other people expect us to. Choose the things we want, the responses we want to make, the relationships we want, the things, prioritize the things that we really desire, that we're passionate about, that light us up, that give us energy instead of sucking our energy.
Amazing. Gold nuggets of wisdom this morning from Daniel. Honestly, people should just replay and replay and replay this episode, Daniel, because it's powerful. Absolutely powerful what you say, and I absolutely 100% concur. I think I would also just add to that. I think that in creating that mission and vision and purpose for yourself and aligning yourself and prioritizing and optimizing and executing, does that also mean, that we need to, I can only explain for myself, but where there are people, places, and things that don't align to my mission, vision, purpose, and value, right? Uh, Rather than continue to people please, I have come to the decision in my life that I prefer not to people please, and actually, do you know what? I create a new body of people around me. I create my team around me. I create my network around me that will build me up rather than drag me down. That will continue to create that sense of dread and anxiety. That will actually be there for me night, noon, and day. And I'll shout out to all my network who know who they are, but who
Yeah.
are right by me every step of the way. Does it do you also need a team and support? Because
Yeah, you do. And I think that's such an important thing for men to and especially as we get into midlife, because we suddenly look around and realize that
steady now,
we haven't got any.
steady. I know you've mentioned midlife twice now. Do you know what I mean?
But
I
it's
don't
a
want to
time
go
where
there. I actually don't want. I actually don't want to even hold that belief. Right? That's what
embrace it, Seamus, embrace it.
I know, but I'm bracing it positively, mate. In
But
in
yeah,
in my body, I'm midlife. In my head, I am not.
yeah,
I'm
we're
definitely
all
not
still in our
midlife.
20s, mate, aren't we? Yeah, I'm still 27.
Yeah,
Um,
totally, totally.
yeah, no, that community and that network aspect is really important. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think especially for men, I think women are really good at maintaining support networks and having close friends. I think again, and I think this is a message we receive from society. There are too many of us blokes who are lone wolves, who are thinking we have to do everything ourselves and trying
yeah,
to take everything on ourselves. We don't.
yeah.
Humans are at their best when they collaborate. We are social animals. Our network and the people we surround ourselves with is vital. It's
Mm,
so important. It's so important to have different people for different things,
yeah,
for what you need and for what they need, an exchange of what we all bring to the table, because we're all uniquely gifted and talented. you know I'm good at some stuff, you're good at some stuff, other people are good at other stuff. And the more we collaborate, the more we understand ourselves and what we need help and support with and what we need to get from other people and from our relationships, then the better and deeper our connections will be. And those intimate, deep connections are so important. I'm not just talking about our sexual relationships. I'm talking about having intimate, deep connections with the people in our network, with our friends,
yeah,
with a small circle that that you can go to with anything. And the key for me, Seamus, it's one of my core values when it comes to these communities and your network, is honesty. It starts with you being honest with yourself. I can't do this all myself. I need other people in my life. And then you being honest with those people.
yeah. Absolutely,
Don't
100%.
not manipulating people for what you can get. I'm not talking about being a narcissist. I'm talking about being open and honest and approachable and vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely, and authentic, mate. Right? I don't know it's because it gets bandied around quite a lot, but authenticity is really important.
Yeah. And not performing it, Seamus.
No,
So I see a lot of people performing authenticity. We're not talking about performing authenticity. We're talking about genuinely
living it.
stripping it all back and being yourself. It's being, isn't it? We are human beings. And
Yeah,
we get that. We become human doings, havings, thinkings. We're not. We're human beings.
I love that. I love that. you're preaching to a pack. You're preaching to a packed house today. Honestly, Daniel, it's been a real pleasure to have you on today, Daniel. And you know, certainly we've nearly come to the end of our time, and I could speak to you all day, my friend. I
Yeah,
really
we could, couldn't we? We could sit here for another couple of hours, but we
easy.
don't want to bore your excellent.
No, easy, but you know, and I suppose in listening to you talking and sharing your wonderful story, isn't it kind of ironic that you look through the lens at probably the highest sportsmen and women in the whole country, you know, and you've recorded some great footage, right? And like any great sportsman, right? th- they have a clear mission and vision. They have a level of resilience and determination. They know what support that they need. They
Yeah,
sleep well, they eat well, they exercise well.
peak
They're
performance, Seamus. Peak performance. I
a,
learned so much from working with athletes and former professional sportsmen and how they did things and how they went about their
yeah,
business. And it was I really in the last few years of my career, I really learned what resilience meant. And it doesn't mean endurance.
no,
Resilience means making hay while the sun shines, getting rest, recuperation, recharging. So the times where you do have to really show up and you do have to go the extra mile and push
you're
through,
ready.
you can perform at your
Yeah,
peak.
you're absolutely ready. And I think there's a model and a message and a real mission and vision in there for all of us, Daniel. Where can people find you, Daniel? Where, if somebody is listening to you and wants to reach out, where's the best place to get you?
So LinkedIn is where I spend a lot of my time. So go and search for my name on LinkedIn, or I have a website, danglidecoach.co.uk. But yeah, they're the two places really to find me. I'm always delighted to have conversations. Please do reach out.
I,
I,
I sense a book.
Yeah, there's one coming, Seamus. Yeah, positive masculinity, a new way for men to thrive. I've got so many things I want to do, Seamus. So I'm breaking it all down one step at a time, one bit at a time. So, yeah, that will come. Absolutely will.
Lovely. I'm going to look out for that, my friends.
Brilliant.
Drop me a message. Let me know when that's available. Because I will have a copy. I will read a copy, and I will review a copy of that book for you.
Oh, lovely. Thank
So you're absolutely right. I'm a believer right here, my friend. And I appreciate you reaching out, and I appreciate you taking the time during your precious day today, mate, to have this conversation with me and record this episode. It's been a real pleasure, Daniel, to have you on today. Really
you.
has.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me, Seamus. I've really enjoyed it.
No, I appreciate it, man, and I wish you all the best with your work, with your consultancy, with your motivation, with your book. I also sense a podcast, but
Yeah, that's coming too, mate. That's
yeah,
coming
yeah,
too.
yeah. I know. I felt it, mate. I felt it in your energy circle. Yeah. So listen, if you need podcast guests, you know where I am, man.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Seamus.
You know where I am, and have a wonderful day, Dan.
Cheers, mate. Nice to see you.
You too.